The bubonic plague.
Doctors used the mask that looked like a bird's beak to protect them from getting infected by the disease, which was made out of leather. The masks were stuffed with dried flowers, herbs, and spices to keep them safe from the harmful air.
The bubonic plague comes from rodents and is an infection of the lymphatic system, usually in the result from the bite of an infected flea. In very rare circumstances, as in the septicemic plague, the disease can be transmitted by direct contact with infected tissue or exposure to cough of another human.
It will kill your cells in certain limbs, making it so you have to amputate that limb. The fingers become black due to the lack of circulation and the tissue dies.
The Black Death killed 50 million people in the 14th century, or 60% of Europe's entire population. The Black Death is widely thought to have been an outbreak of bubonic plague caused by bacteria carried by fleas that lived on black rats.
In the Middle Ages, they believed that people that had the Black Death were punished by God. Today, scientists understand that the Black Death, known as the plague, is spread by a bacteria called Yersinia pestis.
The Black Death was named due to its physical manifestation and its effect on society. The Black Death was characterized by painful swelling in the lymph nodes, known as buboes, so it was generally considered to be an outbreak of the bubonic plague.
The term black also referred to glum or dreadful due to the devastating effect this disease had on society. History records the Black Death as having begun in the 14th century in southern Russia near the Crimea.
Outbreaks of the bubonic plague spread by rats and introduced by ships from overseas were common in Queensland at the turn of the century. The first known case of the plague in Australia was reported in Sydney in January 1900. The first case of Queensland occurred in Rockhampton in April 1900, and not long after, cases arose in Townsville and Brisbane.
The influence of the church was greatly diminished during this period. Many became disillusioned with the church for its inability to halt the relentless progression of the disease. Faith in God was sorely tested. Some said, "Why did God not answer and turn this disease back?" Many monasteries suffered high mortality due to the fact that the disease victims sought help from the clergy, thus passing the disease to them. Biblically, the plague has always been seen as a means of divine punishment by God. The classic example of this is the 10 plagues brought against the Egyptians when Pharaoh refuses to release God's people. The Bible does not prophesy the Black Death, so it is difficult to characterize it as a scourge from God.
Virtually nobody thought that the present rats and fleas spread the Black Plague. During the Middle Ages, people tried several ways to cure the plague, including trying to be happy and avoiding bad thoughts, drinking good wine, avoiding eating fruit, putting fragrant herbs in beverages, and abusing the poor.
Cats and dogs can catch fleas while exploring outdoors, or they can drag infected rodents directly into the home. The plague comes from three forms. If a person gets bitten by an infected flea, they most likely develop bubonic plague, named for the painful lumps where the bacteria multiply.
And that's all she wrote for the bubonic plague.